Greetings. We are here at the University of the Virgin Islands, the only historically Black college and university in the Caribbean. And we're going to start our second segment where we have our Communication 120 students that are part of the public speaking course here at the UBI Albert Einstein campus in St. Croix. They're going to be sharing their reflections on a taste of Black culture. So I'm going to let them open up and move this conversation forward. Yay.
Greetings, one and all. My name is Malachi Warner. I am a student in the Communication 120 course, and this is a taste of Black culture. Today, we have various student-led, student-designed, and student-orchestrated programs for you to listen to. We have a video on Black empowerment. We have Black empowerment through words, poetry. We have an Afro-Latino poetry that showcases the Afro-Latino culture of the Spanish-speaking world in the Caribbean, Latin, South America, North America, and beyond. We have expressions of Black culture through music, fashion, and hair. Before I go further, I would like to, my apologies. I would like to take a moment of silence to remember Roberta Flack. Some of you may or may not know her, but you know one of her most popular songs. I will not be singing that because I cannot sing. Just letting you guys know that I will not be singing it. However, she was 88 years old when she passed just a few days ago. Now, we have highlights and recognition of Black technological innovations and their inventors, the recognition of women who have often gone unrecognized in history, and the strategy of public speaking. Now, before I go further again, why is February Black History Month? You may have that question. You may have felt that question in the past, wondered why they picked the shortest of all the months in the year for Black history. But however, it doesn't really matter. However, there's a real reason why that is the case. Now, I would like to introduce Romana Shallery to explain.
Good evening. My name is Romana Shallery, and I will be talking to you about why February is Black History Month. Although February is the shortest month of the year, it is also known as the month that many people choose to celebrate a people full of culture, intelligence, and esteem. Maybe there may have been some before him who thought about the concept, but Dr. Carter G. Woodson is recognized as the founder of Black History Month. Dr. Woodson strongly felt that there wasn't enough recognition towards Blacks, so he pioneered the field of African American studies in the early 20th century. Inspired by having attended a 3-week national celebration of the 50th anniversary of emancipation in 1915, Woodson joined 4 others in founding the Association for the Study of Negroes, Life and History, also known as ASNLH, to encourage scholars to engage in intensive study of the Black past, a study that had long been sorely neglected by US schools. 2 years later, Woodson and the ASNLH Negro History Week in launched the Negro History Week in February of 1926. February just happened to be the birth month of 2 important people who paved the way for Blacks as well. Former President Abraham Lincoln, who was born on February 12 in 1809. President Lincoln, for those who may not know, issued the Emancipation Proclamation, which stated all slaves were considered free, to sum it up. The other pioneer is none other than African-American abolitionist, author and orator Frederick Douglass, born on February 14 in 1818. The Black community had also celebrated their contributions to African-American liberation and civil rights on their birthdays. Therefore, this is how Black History Month came about. When I think about the meaning of Black History Month, it means focusing on the resilience and brilliance of Black people while reflecting on the strides made that have led us to this moment. I challenge you that after February 28, 2025, 11:59 p.m., that you will not forget about us or ignore us until February 1st, 2026. I urge you to see us all for that we are, not just for athleticism or entertainment. Yes, we are great at that, but see us for all our unique and rich experiences and accomplishments in all areas. Do not just talk about slavery or segregation, but discuss the steps to mend these relationships between Black people becoming a better community. Every day is Black history. Black history is everyone's history. Thank you, and let's honor Black history today and forever. Next, you'll be listening to my comrade, Marianne, on the section of Black empowerment.
To break the chain of expensive oppression and to create pathways to equality, justice, and prosperity. But to truly understand the essence of Black equality, we must. I'm not sure what this happened. That's what it's about. One more time. To bring the chain of expensive oppression to pathways to equality, justice, and prosperity. But the truly understanding the essence of Black people, with respect to the rich heritage from history. Actually, the roots and the first cousin and nations of the humans. From the great pyramids of Egypt, which stands as a testament to human ingenuity, to the smuggling pursuits of Timbuktu, where knowledge was revered and used. The history of Africa is not solely a history of strife and struggle. It is also a history of triumph and innovation. Empires such as Mali, Senegal, and the Great Zimbabwe thrived, showcasing this continent's flaws in trade, art, and governance. Civilizations laid the foundation for a race that would endure and inspire future generations. However, into era, transatlantic slave trade marked a dark chapter in African history. Millions of people were forcibly removed from their homeland, subjected to unimaginable horrors, and sold into slavery. This period of dehumanization and exploitation left an irreversible scar on the African diaspora. Yet, it also ignited a flame of resistance and resilience. Despite the centuries of enslavement and oppression, Black people have continually risen above adversity. Abolition of slavery,
driven by tireless efforts of abolitionists and the unwavering spirit of the enslaved man's turning point. Figures such as Harriet Tubman, Frederick Douglass, and Sojourner Truth emerged as beacons of hope, guiding the path toward freedom and equality. As we move through the timeline of history, we encounter the civil rights movement, 20th century, a pivotal era that redefined the landscape of social justice. Leaders like Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., Malcolm X, Rosa Parks, and many others galvanized the masses advocating for rights and dignity of Black individuals. Their courage and conviction brought about monumental changes, including the end of segregation and the establishment of voting rights for African Americans. Today, Black empowerment continues to evolve, taking on new dimensions addressing contemporary challenges. It is about creating opportunities for economic advancement, ensuring access to quality education, and fostering a sense of pride and identity within Black communities. It is about representation in all spheres of society, politics, business, the arts, and beyond. In conclusion, Black empowerment and the recognition of African Black history are not merely ideals, they are imperatives. They are the guiding lights that illuminate our path toward a just and equitable world. As we stand here today, let us commit to uplifting, inspiring, and empowering Black communities. Let us honor the past, celebrate the present, and build a future where every individual, regardless of their race or background, can thrive and achieve their fullest potential. Thank you. Thank you.
In Furniture Center across from Ski Shopping Center. Come sing up.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Amriel, and in honor of Black History Month, I want to celebrate some poets that are great examples of Black excellence, power, and influence, and poems that explore Black history, emotions, and culture. Throughout history, poetry has been used for many things. People who write poems use it as an outlet to express themselves. People who read poems use it to help them interpret their feelings. Teachers use it to expose their students to different ideas, and even historians use it to describe people's opinions on events. Poetry is used to express emotions, tell stories in a creative way, and dramatize events. It is an essential part of our human culture. During this month, I believe that we need to celebrate great poets who made various strides as Black people. Nikki Giovanni was born on June 7th, 1943 in Knoxville, Tennessee. She is a world-renowned poet, and a lot of her work is influenced by her participation in the Black arts and Black power movements in the 1960s. She's published many poetry collections, such as Black Judgment, Black Feeling, Black Talk, and Bicycles, Love Poems. She has published over 24 volumes of poetry and essays and has written children's literature. Giovanni has received many awards, including the American Book Award, the Langston Hughes Award, and was a 7-time recipient of the NAACP Image Award. Her work explores race, sexuality, gender, and the African American family. She worked to uplift the Black experience in the arts as part of the Black arts movement. Giovanni also dedicated herself to supporting other Black, especially Black women writers. She taught at many universities, including Queens College, CV University of New York, and was a part of the faculty at Virginia Tech from 1987 to 2022. She unfortunately died on December 9th, 2024. Angela Jackson was born in Greenville, Mississippi on July 25th, 1951. She is a poet and a playwright. She moved to Chicago, where she received her bachelor's from Northwestern University. At Northwestern, Jackson joined the Black Student Union. Influenced by visiting poet Margaret Walker, she was invited to join the Organization for Black American Culture, OBAC, and stayed a member for 20 years. She was praised as a reader and performer on Chicago's growing Black literary scene. Jackson published her first book of poetry, Voodoo Love Magic, in 1974. Some of her poetic works include Solo in the Boxcar Third Floor, The Greenville Club, and The Man with the White Liver. Jackson also won numerous awards, including the Academy of American Poets Award from Northwestern University, the American Book Award, and the Shelley Memorial Award of the Poetry Society of America. During this month, we also need to remember poems that describe certain feelings surrounding events remembered during Black history. Many of us know the song Lift Every Voice and Sing, otherwise known as the Black National Anthem, but it actually started out as a poem written in 1900 by James Weldon Johnson, who was an NAACP leader. His words encompass the solemn yet hopeful appeal for the true liberty of Black Americans. His brother composed music for the lyrics, and it was sung for the very first time at Stanton School by 500 school children. It was adopted by the NAACP and used as a rallying song during the Civil Rights Movement. For My People by Margaret Walker, born in 1915 in Birmingham, Alabama, is a poem that celebrates Black culture while highlighting several of the tough times that Black people have faced. It encourages us, the future generations, not to give up, but to keep fighting and not to allow ourselves to face the same problems. The poem is bittersweet and evokes both passion and pain. It highlights struggles, but also celebrates the hope for a new world. After Images by Audre Lorde, born in New York in 1934, speaks about enduring racial injustices, generational trauma, and resilience. Through very poignant imagery, she described the lingering impressions of traumatic events, such as the murder of Emmett Till, who becomes a central metaphor in the poem for violence on Black individuals and the people as a whole, and the dehumanizing eye of the media. The poem also conveys solidarity, with the shared pain being a unifying force that urges us to fight against injustice. So during this month, as you reflect on many of our amazing and influential Black people, take some time to celebrate Black poets and their poetry. Thank you. Now you have your poetry recited and explained by Naya Ashley and Luna.
Hi, my name is Naya Ashley, and I'm going to be reciting a poem by Alice Walker, Remember Me. This is a presentation of her ongoing literature, and this theme is one that ignites Walker's passion because it is one that she lived day by day in her life, particularly because she lived in a progress for era. She lived in an era of progress for women. This poem represents the healing of Black women via the hope for that justice. Remember me? I am the girl with the Black skin, whose shoes are thin. I am the girl with the rotten teeth. I am the girl with the wounded eye and the melted ears. I am the girl holding their babies, washing their clothes, sweeping their yards, washing, dark and rotten, wounded and wounded. I give to the human race only hope. I am the woman blessed with the blessed dark skin. I am the woman with the teeth repaired. I am the woman with the healing eye and the ears that hear. I am the woman dark, repaired, healed, listening to you. I would give to the human race only hope. I am the woman offering two flowers whose roots are twins. Justice and hope, hope and justice. Let us begin. Thank you. Now I'm going to be giving the mic over to my classmate Luna on her Hispanic piece.
Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you so much for joining us this evening. Since today is February 27 is also the Dominican Independence Day. Oh, sorry. Let me start again, sorry. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us this evening. Since today is February 27 is also the Dominican Independence Day, I have chosen to discuss the Mirabal Sisters as part of my topic of African Hispanic roots. The Mirabal sisters were actually four Dominican women who become symbol of resistance and courage against the dictatorship of Rafael Trujillo, who ruled the Dominican Republic from 1930 to 1961. The sisters' names were Patria Minerva and Maria Teresa and Didi Mirabal. The Mirabal sisters, also known as the butterflies, las mariposas, are an excellent example to highlight during African Heritage Month. Although they are Dominican descent rather than African heritage, and however, their legacy and the principle they stood for, freedom, justice, and resistance to oppression, are closely related to the large fight for civil rights and equal that Black history and African heritage embrace. For this reason, I would like to share a poem with you written by a Dominican author called Las Tres Mariposas. Sorry. Eran tres mujeres honestas, educadas y muy hermosas, que las recuerda el país como las tres mariposas. Se marcharon sin querer y no dejaron tristeza. Ellas eran Patria, Minerva y también María Teresa. Ellas perdieron sus vidas por orden de un caudillo, que su voluntad imponía. Él fue Rafael Trujillo. Él se enamoró de una y al no ser correspondido, descargó toda su furia porque se sentía ofendido. Ellas querían democracia y lucharon con sus esposos para ver su país libre y sentir la paz y el gozo. Simulando un accidente, pero el crimen fue notable. Había huellas evidentes, pero las mariposas viven para siempre. And I want to take a moment to give a thanks to every one of you and giving me your attention today. And I would like to introduce the next speaker, Kiara. She's gonna be talking about Black excellent culture. Thank you.
Black culture has influenced fashion in many ways through hairstyles, jewelry, streetwear, and athleisure. But it has also influenced the music industry and pop culture. Good evening, my name is Kiara Ashry, and today I'll be talking to you about music and its influence on Black culture. Music is more than just something we listen to every day. It is more than just a vibe. It creates a space for artists to tell their stories and share similar interests worldwide. Music is a soundtrack for our lives, but for Black culture, it is a voice of creativity, empowerment, and resilience. It was a place for many Black artists to share their stories, their struggles, and most importantly, their victories. Back in the day, there were spirituals, hymns, and gospels, and they were more than just melodies. It offered a sense of hope and power when words could not. These melodies were ways slaves used to express themselves and show their feelings. Then came blues and jazz, which originated in the late 19th century to the early 20th century. These genres created a space for other races to realize that African-American music can thrive and prosper in mainstream media. In this case, it would be the music industry. These genres also inspired other genres such as hip hop, R&B, and even rock and roll. Music has not only inspired the Black community, it has brought them together. It became a force that unites people. Songs like We Shall Overcome by Reverend Charles Tinley were more than just songs. They were statements, a statement enacting change, a statement saying that this is our reality right now, but this will not be our forever reality. During the civil rights movement, there were other artists like Sam Cooke who used their voice to demand justice. In their songs, they capture the pain and suffering of those times. Black music does not stop there. It helps shape trends and cultures
and had a big impact on the fashion and hair industry. Black music is one of the most influential pieces in the world, and Black artists today continue to thrive as they use their platform to speak up against wrongdoing in the world. In the end, Black music is more than just entertainment. It is a place that shaped lives of many before, and it continues to shape our lives today. Music is one of many expressions of Black culture. Now we will have Anikwa Jacobs exposing us to another expression of Black culture.
Good morning, good afternoon, and good night to all. First, I want to thank those for coming and supporting COM 120 public speaking class with Professor Kaina. Is this better? No? Good morning, good afternoon, and good night to all. First, I want to thank those for coming and supporting COM 120 public speaking class with Professor Kaina. My name is Anikwa Jacobs. I'll be discussing fashion as an influence on Black culture. You have already heard and learned about Black History Month's history, and many more. Let's continue the journey, a taste of Black culture. We all know a little bit about fashion, a way of self-expression, but for some, it's about being different and standing out while for others, it's about being unique or a way of reflecting their culture, their history, and how they identify themselves. Also, as a way to be unique using their creativity, innovation, and being seen. Because people take our skin tone, race, culture, and how we look outside to brush up our ideas and ignore our intelligence. Did you know that the influence of fashion within the Black community can be traced back to slavery? You may be thinking about cotton, but enslaved workers used to weave fabrics and manage the dyeing process using indigo. For many of the Black designers' trends have been left uncredited. But in the Black community, the influence on the fashion industry has been consistent and enduring. For example, hoop earrings, the acrylic nails, hairstyles, and many more, contributing to the fashion in the Black communities. Black fashion designers use their art to represent their own people. Due to many of the luxury brands being racist and made with a certain image in mind. Black designers from the time period of 1920s into the 1960s are only now getting their recognition for their work and their impact. Before said time, fashion designers of the African descent were labeled as dressmakers or seamstress, which is a fun fact. For example, the loving Anne Lou was the first African American to become a well-known fashion designer. But first, the African American fashion designer that was known as a dressmaker, instead, during the 1860s was Elizabeth Pinnacle. Sorry if I butchered her name. Elizabeth was a slave who was a personal dressmaker for Mary Todd Lincoln, Abraham Lincoln's wife. Another African American fashion designer before the 1920s to the 1960s was Zelda Wynne Valdez. Again, sorry if I butchered her name. She was known as a seamstress instead, made clothes for many famous people, and is the creator of a famous and iconic dress, Maria Cole's after-shoulder wedding dress. Those are just some of the female designers we have learned about and have received their credit. However, many of the fashion designers is the inspiration for many of American designers, which is fitting for how the world is set up, because parts of Black culture and its influences are used as a joke, or to be racist in a way they think is funny, but is ignorant. Instead of people being respectful and educating themselves on a history and culture, They use it in a misleading way to be rude or disrespectful or offensive and even racist. For example, how we style our hair and why it's not just hair for people in a Black community. Which is why my classmate Thais will be sharing about hair and its influence in Black culture next for you today.
History Month is about honoring our past, celebrating our present, and shaping our future. Good day to all. My name is Thais Young, and today I will be sharing with you how the influence and expression of hair contributes to our heritage, our culture, and Black History Month as a whole. So when you think about our African American hair or African hair, you mainly go to the trends and the styles that we currently do today. But Black hair is more than that. It's a symbol of our expression, it's a symbol of our identity, our pride, and our resilience throughout the years. So I want to give you guys a quick backstory on African American hair and what we originated it from. So before slavery times, we used our hair as a way to communicate and tell a story. So the braids, the locks, the twists, everything that you see today, we use it to sometimes show our age, what tribe we belong to, and also our social statuses. We also use this as a cultural art form. So think about how today we use a pen and a paper to express ourselves, or a canvas and a paintbrush to express ourselves. We did the same thing through our hair. It wasn't as easy as going as in our time period. So now I'd like to talk about the oppression and the fight we had to put up for our hair freedom. So during slavery time, many slaves were forced to cut their hair, shave it all off. So periodically, as time went on and we grew as a community, rules were altered where Black people became more a part of the social society. As people themselves, we became present in working, in school, in everyday life, in a supermarket. So our hair became labeled as unprofessional, messy, unkempt, and even in our professional life, we experienced termination and suspension for wearing our natural hair. This showed up, this is what, in this time, this is what contributed to the implementation of the Crown Act in 2019, which prohibited any type of racial discrimination about our hair. So in all of these struggles, it highlights how far we have came as a community, how resilient, strong, and influential we are as Black people in everything that we do, from ancient hairstyles to now our hair being a part of political representations, trends, styles, you name it, we are there. So I say this to say, as a reminder to embrace your Black beauty, embrace your hair, and don't just honor our Black community in the month of February, honor it every day. So thank you, and now I would like to welcome Mikisha, who will be sharing with us the technological innovations that relates to Black greatness. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Mikisha Wilfred, and in celebration of Black History Month, I will be talking about the African influence on technology. Have you ever wondered who invented the things used on a daily basis? Because I know I have. The idea of inventions dates back to the beginning of the human existence, but where do African people fit in? Inventions like the hand axe, bow and arrow, boats, and manipulating fire can be credited to our early African ancestors. These tools and many more are still being used present day in many iterations. Moving on to our modern society, many inventors and researchers push limits in what we know today about technology. Dr. Shirley Jackson is a physical scientist, academic leader, and the first African-American woman to earn a doctorate from MIT. Her research in theoretical physics led to the development of things like the portable fax, solar cells, and fiber optic cables. Her extensive knowledge has allowed many to foster breakthroughs in telecommunications. Madam C.J. Walker was an entrepreneur, philanthropist, and the first self-made millionaire in America, millionaire in America. She created a specialized line of hair care products that included shampoos, pomades, and hair straighteners specifically for Black hair. Her creation of the Walker system allowed consumers to have a specific regimen to take care of their hair types. Paired up with Annie Turnbull Malone, who was also an entrepreneur and had her own line of hair care products, their lines and systems revolutionized the Black hair care industry. Frederick McKinley Jones was an inventor and engineer and the first African-American to win a National Medal of Technology in 1991. He invented many things, including the first successful system for mobile refrigeration. This system eliminated the use for ice and salts for long-haul products. His inventions transformed the American food and medical industry, especially as we know it today. Black inventors shaped the world in ways we sometimes overlook, from Dr. Shirley Jackson in telecommunications and Madam C.J. Walker's impact on Black hair care to Frederick McKinley Jones revolutionizing refrigeration. Our inventions are everywhere, so the next time you use something essential, remember a Black inventor may have paved the way. Thank you for listening, and next up we have Nasim McIntosh on unrecognized Black women.
Good afternoon. My name is Nasim McIntosh, and I'd like to take a second to acknowledge Dr. Kahina for putting together this function and for also being a fantastic representation of an African American woman. Now, Black history is very special. We get a chance to reminisce on all of the people that shape what we do today in our culture. What I have an issue with is we tend to highlight the negative of Black history, such as segregation and discrimination and freedom that we fought for, but also lost a lot of lives for. Some people go unappreciated, and I think that they should be more talked about in Black history because some of their accomplishments may not be as important as some people like Martin Luther King Jr. and Malcolm X, but they also have a big factor in the things we do today. 1753, Phyllis Whitley was born in West Africa. At the age of 9, she became a slave, and she died at the age of 31. Before she passed, she had a great accomplishment that I think should go recognized in Black history, as she became not only the first African-American woman to become an author, to publish the first book of poetry, she, in general, is the first African-American to do it. I think that should be highlighted because of all the years I went to school, not one English teacher has told me her name or mentioned her name. As a person that enjoys writing, I think she should get some credit for, at a time, not being known to write, but she should be talked about and highlighted in our schools. 1962, John Glenn became the first American to go into orbit. Now, that is no small feat at all, and I think he should get all the respect, but he can't do that alone. He had 3 African-American women who helped and shaped what he did: Dorothy Vaughan, Katherine Johnson, and Mary Jackson. Before I end my presentation, I'd like for all the women to give a round of applause to themselves. Thank you. And now I would like for you to welcome my classmate, Tiara, who will present to you what we've learned so far in the COM 120 public speaking class. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. I would first like to thank you all for coming and attending our program today and joining us in celebrating Black history. It's been a great pleasure to be able to stand up here and talk to you all. I also want to thank my classmates for sharing their wonderful speeches and presentations that accurately celebrated our heritage. Today, I would like to take a moment to speak about public speaking. We spent the majority of our semester learning and practicing how to prepare an effective speech in the classroom. We were evaluated on aspects such as the knowledge of the content that we presented, our volume, and whether whether the audience were able to hear us, and also how we delivered our speech. Were we confident? Were we clear enough for the people to understand what we were speaking? This is the criteria that not only our professor used to grade us, but also our fellow classmates. We gave each other praises for what we did well and also criticized each other for what we needed improvement on. However, there was one concept that I learned in the textbook that I believe was accurately showed through my classmates' presentations, and that is being an audience-centered speaker. An audience-centered speaker prioritizes forming a connection with the audience. They do this by learning about the audience, their backgrounds, their interests, what they know, in order to give a speech that is best suited for their needs and their interests. I believe my classmates accurately portrayed this quality through their preparation for this event. Each person chose topics that they believed not only fit Black history, but were also interesting enough for you all to listen to. I hope their presentations accurately depicted our dedication throughout the semester to perfect our public speaking skills and communication skills. Now, I would like to pass it on to Ethan, who will close us off for the evening.
Good evening, everyone. As with all good things, sadly, this must come to an end. As we conclude our journey to the rich history of Black culture and empowerment, let us carry forward the lessons that we have learned and remember the voices that we have heard today. From poetry that echoed resilience to music that shapes our identity, from the inventions of unsung Black inventors to the bold expressions of fashion and hair, each and every story in each and every contribution is a testament to the strength and brilliance of Black heritage. We as a Black people or people of color have been through a lot, and I would say that no matter what, even though we were taken from our motherland and dispersed throughout the world, wherever we go, we do leave an impact and are not held down by our surroundings. Black History Month is more than just a month or a moment. It is a movement of remembrance, recognition, and reverence towards our ancestors who came before us. It is a celebration of the past that empowers the present and paves the way for our future. Without those that came before us, we would not be here today. Without people like Marcus Garvey, Queen Mary, General Budo, we would not have the freedoms that we have here right now. May we leave here inspired not only to appreciate, but to advocate in that we as people of color should look at other marginalized groups, not allow them to be trodden down by the majority, do not allow any marginalized society to be silenced. We are not only to learn, but to lead. And as allies and architects of the world, we need to honor every culture's legacy. As Dr. Maya Angelou once said, do the best you can until you know better. Then, when you know better, do better. Before I conclude, I just want to thank my classmates for stepping out and coming out and, getting over their stage fright and being able to come and do what they have to do. And I want to thank Dr. Kahina, most importantly, for teaching us the skills necessary to be here today. Thank you for joining us today and celebrating the excellence. Thank you for joining us today and celebrating the essence of Black excellence. Have a good evening.
And so before we have, this is like the extra portion. I want to definitely congratulate each and every one of you because I know that it took a minute. And see, I even gave you a small treat, so it's sweet in our mouths. I think it's important for all of the things that we studied this semester thus far. We have a lot more to do. Maybe I shouldn't say that right now. So I'll focus on enjoy your spring break next week and enjoy that when we come back, it's going to be on because we're going to be able to get to the point where I won't have to do absolutely anything. And you will be able to create the entire symposium, workshop, conference from start to finish on your own. And that's the intention when we talk about public speaking. You'll notice that I speak of you as orators. The idea of use the mic when you can, but even if you don't have the mic, people should still be able to hear you. When you start to learn how to use your pitch, use your body as an instrument, right? So I want to say that part first and foremost, but I also want to, I have students from our COM 119 course that just because of scheduling, they usually have their classes Monday, Wednesday, that they're going to do their last presentation. So I'd like to invite Ray first, because Ray had been here from the very beginning to come and do her presentation. So let's welcome Ray. We'll have just 2 short presentations and then we'll be completely finished because we are still within our time. Thank you so much. Come Ray.
Good evening. My name is Ray Trice, and I'd like to introduce the poet Lucille Clifton to the University of the Virgin Islands. The Mississippi River empties into the Gulf, and the Gulf enters the sea, and so forth, none of them emptying anything, all of them carrying yesterday forever on their white-tipped backs, all of them dragging forward tomorrow. It is the great circulation of the earth's body, like the blood of the gods, this river in which the past is always flowing. Every water is the same water coming round. Every day, someone is standing on the edge of this river, staring into time, whispering mistakenly, only here, only now. Lucille Clifton wrote powerful poems using simple language that spoke to her readers' humanity. Her collections focused on the experiences of the forgotten, with messages that resonate even now, 15 years after her passing. Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Inicia Isaac. I'm a student here at the University of the Virgin Islands studying nursing, and today I'm going to tell you a little bit about Emmett Till and how he became part of the African American experience. But first, what is the African American experience? The African American experience tells a story of the challenges, hardships, and discrimination that African Americans have encountered for many years and still confront today. This experience has been molded by the perseverance of some historical figures such as Martin Luther King Jr., Rosa Parks, and Ruby Bridges, just to mention a few. They helped shape the African community for greater good through protests and civil rights movements, but one person whose name isn't spoken about enough is Emmett Till. Emmett Till was a 14-year-old boy who was brutally and savagely murdered at the hands of 2 white men in Mississippi in 1955. His death became a deeply rooted event in the African American community because it showcased the racial discrimination that African Americans endured for many years simply based on the color of their skin. Emmett Till received, well, not received, sorry,
but endured a tragic death simply for whistling at a white woman. In the eyes of white oppressors, this was deemed unacceptable, and due to that, they brutally and savagely killed him. Following Till's passing, many African Americans took action to fight for racial as well as social equality, not only for themselves as individuals, but for African Americans as a whole in their community. Emmett Till's death influenced the Montgomery bus boycott, where African Americans decided that instead of taking public transportation, they would rather carpool or walk to their destination because they did not think that it was right to give up their seats for another white person simply based on their color of their skin during this time. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Andre. I'm in COM 119, and today I'd like to talk to you about Hubert Nathaniel Critchlow, who was widely regarded as a father of the trade union movement in British Guyana, where he was born, and the Caribbean wider field. Here's a picture of Hubert Nathaniel Critchlow, and can we go to the next slide? And we can have a short video. Just click on that. Let's go back to the next slide. Just click on it.
Planters flooded the fur markets with Portuguese, Indian, African, and Chinese workers. As time went on, this influx of labor kept wages down, and competition from European sugar beets dropped wages further. By the 1900s, the cost of living continued to rise, but the wages of urban and rural workers were ridiculously low, with the normal working day in Georgetown ranging from 10 to 10.5 hours. Spontaneous scattered protests littered the colonial landscape, but resulted in little changes. In November 1905, Hubert Nathaniel Critchlow, a 21-year-old, largely unknown dock worker, organized a massive protest of waterfront workers. The protest spread to include various categories of urban workers and even rural workers from the sugar estates. The British Guyana strike. The Press Association is informed that the following telegram, dated 5th December, has been received by the West India Committee from the British Guyana Planters Association. Position most serious. Urge the government to order a warship to remain here. Strike spreading in the country. More force wanted. Although the protest failed, it planted the seeds of the trade union movement in British Guyana.
All right, so indentureship existed from 1834 after slavery was abolished in the Caribbean until 1924. And indentureship occurred primarily in Guyana, Trinidad, and Jamaica. Workers from Portugal, India, and China were brought to the Caribbean to work with free slaves. However, during that period, the former slave masters and who basically control the commerce and the infrastructural development of those colonies, they suppressed the workers. They worked harsh conditions. They were treated unfairly. They had 10-hour 10.5 hours, work days. They paid minimal wages and they were treated really, second class. We go to the next slide. Critchlow, at the age of 21, in 1904, got tired of it, and he stood up. And what he did was organize a strike amongst the workers. However, the strike was unsuccessful because they had no, it wasn't as organized as it could have been, and the support was not overwhelming. He continued to organize several strikes, and the message was sent to the employers that change is necessary. Eventually he got change. He got a 10.5 hour work day reduced to 9 hours. He got a 10% increase in wages, and he demanded more. He was not satisfied. The workers were not satisfied, and they embraced him. They embraced his leadership. So he continued to advocate for more, and in the process of doing so, the employers got tired of him, and they said, we give you our work days are from 10.5 hours to 9.5 hours. He demanded an 8-hour work day, and for that he was fired. And not only fired, he was backballed, he was marginalized, he was sidelined. He couldn't get work in a colony, the country in which he was born. So that forced him, the next slide, that forced him to form the first labor union. And that was he was born in Guyana, as I said, and that was the first union in the Caribbean. And that was advocacy for workers, organizing workers, and championing the interests and causes. You go to the next slide. So in the end, they had to use strikes. So by forming a union, it allowed him to negotiate. It allowed him to meet with his employers. It allowed him to meet with the governor of the colony at that time, and in doing so, he was able to get some success. He was an effective communicator because he had workers across the entire country, and they had the village movement, African village movement, which was formed after slavery. He used that initiative to mobilize the workers, and there were things like coffee mornings. That was a venture whereby every village, they would have meetings and they would have breakfast on Sunday mornings, and that continued throughout the 21st century. You can go to the next slide. And in the end, in 1924, indentureship was curtailed, but it wasn't curtailed easily. There was a massive strike, a massive protest. Of course, there was some rebellion and so forth. And that happened in 1924. There was and indentureship was brought on halt, and the union got to advocate more for the workers. And what he has done and all the causes that he championed and so forth, even up to today, on May 5th, every year, people would wear red, and different unions that were formed after his union, they would promote and advocate, and it was a mark of respect and so forth. Thank you.
Really fit, sort. Dionysia just asked, is there any pending question? Any comment that anyone that's present? I'm going to ask people to ask you something. And it's only because Professor Green has not returned yet, because I had a plan. to really test you. But I will ask the Honorable, is there anything that stuck out for you? Wait a second, I need to. You guys are all back. Please come. Please. Let's welcome former Superintendent Joe Tutine. This is, you have no idea how I feel right now. Like, this is like African Black history, Virgin Islands history, all in one time. Okay, I'm over it. No, and make sure that they can see, right?
Hi, good evening, everyone. I am so honored to be here to look at the future of the Virgin Islands as far as history and culture. You guys did a fantastic job. You really did. You really deserve a round of applause. My favorite part was about the here. You know, the here is so relevant right now. I had the honor a couple of weeks ago of taking the Honorable Justice of the Supreme Court, the first Black woman, Jackson. And we went to an attorney's office and we're there looking over Christiansted and talking about the history. So we got ready to leave and the attorney's daughter is sitting at her station and she has what they call baby locks. My wife drives me crazy about these baby locks, right? So the Supreme Court Justice runs over to her and says, "How long have you had in your baby locks?" This is the US Supreme Court Justice, you know, and here is so important as part of her representation of the culture that she was moved to have a conversation, take pictures with this young lady. And, you know, my wife does that all the time. Every time she sees someone with baby locks, she runs over and, "How long have you had your hair?" You know, so, but your presentation on Black history, the question was asked, why do we have Black history? Well, you know, we were brought here from Africa against our will. We were subject under a colonial system that still remains relevant in most part of the world. And to identify yourself and to help to lift yourself up from all that you've accomplished, you do need a special time to recognize all the accomplishment that those who came before you made on your behalf, so that you now, I don't want to say, well, I'm going to say, you have a duty and a responsibility to continue to live up to those models and to make this better for the generation to follow. You really do. I'm only able to stand here because my parents and my grandparents did something for me and gave me an opportunity. My daughter is a student, Joanna. I think she's in her second year of nursing. And, you know, we thought she would be a nurse, but it looks like she's going to turn out to be a poet. And all of you have special gifts and ability. And public speaking takes time. It really does. And you all did a fantastic job. Every last one of you. You really brought strength and conviction to your presentation. And I want you to continue to do this because it's important to communicate. And I'm glad that you have Dr. Chin as your instructor, as your professor, to help you, to help build you in presentation. All of you looked at your audience, you were confident, you had a lot of, you could see that you put work into your presentation. It was clearly understood. I think you all deserve an A, but I wouldn't, I wouldn't influence the professor like that, but you guys did really, really well. And the trickiest part of any presentation, that your last presenter did one in Guyana. And to me, when I started doing presentation, that is the hardest presentation that you'll ever have to make, is to connect with the audience, do the PowerPoint, and still stay on point, and to get across your ideas clearly as to what you want your audience to understand. That is difficult, but you will master it. Practice. Practice with your parents, with your peers, in the mirror, memorize some of your parts. It takes work. Some people have a gift, some of us don't. I didn't. I was very shy. I was in a shell for many years. And I came out of it, fortunately for me, because my work required that I did. I worked for the National Park System for 42 and a half years. And if you are the leader of an organization or you represent an organization, you have to be able to communicate and communicate clearly. I was teased hard when I was growing up because I didn't talk like a Crucian all the time. I wanted people to understand what I was saying once, not having to repeat myself. You're talking Crucian, or you're talking like a Yankee. You think you're not from here? No, speak clearly, speak plain English. Let them, you only have to say it once and people will understand, okay? You guys did that. Project your voice, like Dr. Chin said. It doesn't matter what room you're in. You guys like football? The quarterback doesn't have a mic on him, but yet with 50,000 or more people in a stadium, you could hear him calling out those signals. So you got to project your voice. Stand with confidence. You all did that tonight. Everybody did. You know, you all did great. I mean, the future is bright for the Virgin Islands. It is, it really is. And young man, if you want to project, you talked about the poets that nobody talks about. You just gave yourself a beautiful assignment. You know, never raise an issue unless you're willing to tackle it. I learned that a long time ago. Don't point out the problem, because when you point that way, you got like 3 coming back this way. And so you can do something about that. You really can. So thank you, Dr. Chin. Thank you, Joanna, for inviting me as well. So that's all. Do you have any questions for me?
It's not so much a question because I know that there's a lot that you shared as a superintendent.
Right.
But it's really part of what you said tonight in terms of encouraging our University of the Virgin Islands students to speak with confidence. I'm going to keep saying that. If you're in front of a mic, granted you're in front of people, but you need to speak like, even if there's 10,000 people in the room, just think positive, right? That you can say what you're going to say and they're going to listen to you for those 2 to 3, 4 minutes and say it with conviction. So like, how do you get the younger generation to be more engaged in that form? That would be like what are some of the things that you've used that have worked?
Well, with my kids, we practice at home. We're a very religious group of people. And so we do presentation. We study the Bible together. Joanna wants to read everything. We don't get a chance to read sometime. But what we do is we say, if you don't know something, don't be afraid to say, I don't know. I will get back to you. I will do further research on this, you know, but this is as far as I got with my research. And so a second part of doing PowerPoint presentation like the last presenter did is that you're going to get questions that you may not have the answer to immediately. So don't be afraid to say, you know what, I have to do a little further research. I'll get back to you on that. You know, but know your topic. And you guys did, all of you did. You knew your topic, you prepared well, and you presented well. Yeah.
Now with that. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. So before we go, I just want to make sure that pretty much I'm pretty close. There were a lot of A's. There were a lot of A's. Working on saying it's across the board, but I'm going to go back and look at my notes. And I think everyone really did exceptionally well. I want to make sure that you hear me. Exceptionally well. You need to give applause to yourself. All right, to our live viewers, we hope that you appreciate what you were hearing. Please continue to share some things in the comments.
And we're looking forward to being able to bring some of this to the next level in the future. And we will say thank you again very, 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 very much. Again, you've been listening to communication students from Public Speaking 120, as well as interpersonal communication here at the University of the Virgin Islands in the wonderful campus of Albert A. Sheen on the Isle of St. Croix. You know my line, the cultural capital of the entire